Alright guys, it's Adam. I'm back with an update on the object tracking algorithm that I had written and posted about, I don't know, this is probably a month ago. Finally had a little time to jump back into it. What I've done is implemented a PID controller and hooked that up to a USB servo controller. So essentially the errors that I'm calculating in the algorithm as it relates to the object's position versus center, I'm sending through a PID controller and then outputting what that spits out to the servo controller. So obviously the idea behind this PID controller is that it's always trying to bring either the X or Y coordinate errors back to zero, because we want that object to be focused at the center of the frame. So I've been messing around with the PID gains. You know, if you guys have been a part of this community, you know that tuning your PID gains is pretty much, you know, it's kind of like the key to everything, the key to the stability of your system. So there's kind of two factors here. One is how good of a target are we tracking? You know, how clear is it? So how clear is our signal? And then the second is how effectively can we process that signal through the PID controller. So I'm using my DSLR camera on a gimbal. This is the output of the screen. You can see, you know, this is my house. So the equipment I have here is a capture controller, obviously the DSLR on a gimbal, and then there's the USB controller, the servo controller down there. So everything's hooked up. I'm really only demonstrating the Y-axis because while I'm holding this camera it's impossible to do the X and the Y. So I am going to tell this controller to keep an eye on the fan that's on my ceiling. So let's just check my gains here. I want that to be 1. 0.19 is fine. That's a little too high. Let's see here. 0.06, I guess we'll try. Oh, actually, we'll try 0.01. So there's a graph below here. You can see that is going to be the graph that'll show us how our PID loop is functioning. So it kind of gives you a graphical representation of what that loop is doing. So I'm going to start with this thing roughly at center because it's hard for me to hold it with the other hand. Okay, so I'm going to move my hand over here, and you see that that camera is keeping it centered. You also see the output of that graph is starting to show, you know, the oscillation before it reaches its goal. So I'm going to show you the camera now because that's much more interesting than the screen. So you see, as I move my hand, it's finding that fan and keeping it centered. Okay, that's pretty much it. You'll see that that stopped. So interesting thing is that if it loses track of the target, it stops outputting to the servo so that your thing doesn't spin out of control. And let me tell you, that's what happened to me, so that's why I put that in there. I actually ended up stripping one of my gimbal, you know, gears because of that. The output went kind of nutso because it lost track of the target. So that's as far as I've gotten so far. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm having fun with this. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. The next step is to get this in X and Y coordinates. I already know that the X works, but for me, just sitting here, you know, dinking around with this in my living room, it's kind of hard to do both of them because I've got to hold the gimbal and then, you know, work the computer. Ideally, this would just be mounted on some sort of obviously you guys are going to use this for tracking, maybe antenna tracking, or just having an extra virtual friend to film your quad expeditions outdoors. So I guess the next steps for me is just to continue to improve this PID controller, and then maybe wrap this up into something that I can get out to you guys to use in the field. I should mention that I'm using 360-degree servos, so this is kind of set up for that. I plan on making that configurable, but as of right now it is not. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys soon.